It's a couple days before the car show and swap meet up on Mount Pettigene. I started this video early. If I don't stay ahead, I'll get way behind, and then we got all kinds of difficulty trying to catch up. But anyway, I haven't yet gone to the car show, and I haven't posted the results of the car show on a YouTube video. So hopefully that'll go off well. Hopefully you'll all enjoy watching that. But at the same time, anyway, I'm going to try to improve my, car show videos. I'm not going to do any looking around really to buy anything. It'll just be talking to everybody, to the geezers, and hopefully find some cars we haven't seen before, which is something unique, The second thing is our grandson, the same day on that night, John, he will be doing his first kickboxing match as an adult. He's 18 years old. And he's going to an actual match. He's going to fight an actual competitor. Grandma and I, or wifey, we're really apprehensive about this whole thing. Grandma's worried to death, and I'm not overly worried, but I am very concerned. Okay, I don't want him to wind up getting hurt. I know he's a good fighter. He really is. He's really honed his skills, and he's got his karate in combination with his mixed martial arts training. You put the two together, he could come out victorious, but you never know. You don't know who he's up against. You could be some kid out of Central America who if he loses, the family starves. He can't afford to have that, so he's going to go in there and give it everything. And he's not afraid of a little blood. He got to feed the family, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, it's an amateur fight, but it's the up and comer guys. They try to pair him off. They're not going to put, like John, a beginner. They're not going to put him up against a guy who's fought 30 fights already, They better not, let's put it that way. So we'll see how that happens. I want to put that up. Hopefully, I'll put the results of that fight in this video. Because I know some of you are wanting to know the results. For all I know, many of you are. Remember, this is the kid we've been following since he was 4.5, 5 years old, all the way up to the way he is today. So, meanwhile, let's get back to working on the carburetor, and I'll try to have the results of the fight. And by the time you see this video, the car show will hopefully be posted. I hope you enjoy it, like I said. And if so, let us know, and I'll do another one next year. I'll keep doing them as long as I can keep moving around, and which I enjoy doing. And let's get cranked up on our carburetor again. I got some new stuff to show you. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It may not be very long. Well, hello again. We are still on our little carburetor. And after the last video, Brendan contacted me and he says, you've got a screwy looking screw right here compared to all the rest. He says somebody's obviously put the wrong screw in there, which means the others have probably been taken out at one time, and one of them was lost or damaged, and they replaced it with this round head screw instead of the normal screw that goes in there. Well, I had noticed that, but I wanted to wait till I got to it later. But why wait? Let's just go ahead and take care of it now. This one here, let me see. See, this thing here sits on the engine. It sits like this. And the last thing you want is that screw to come out of the bottom and go down into your motor. While the motor's running, it'll go down there, and if it makes it through one of the valves and down into the cylinder, and of course there's no telling, it could, I don't know, the engine starts clattering around in there. Maybe it's been made out of brass, this one here. So anyway, let's find out. I'm looking at these other screws here. Somebody has taken this carburetor completely apart down here. So let's go ahead and take a look at these other screws and see if they're messed up. Yeah, see right there? See where that's been screwed up right there. There's another one right there. So all of these, look at it, there's another one boogered up. These things are very difficult to get out initially. On the other end of the screw, what they did at the factory when they made them is they flared them out a little bit on the other side, and they sometimes just peened them over down the other side. Let's see if I can open it up here. Let me get a good picture of it, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. On the other side of the screw, it goes down, it threads all the way down through, but they'll flare these things out or sometimes peen them over at the factory. Sometimes they'll do both. So if you ever really want to take one of these carburetors apart completely and you know the screw will not come out. It's almost impossible to get it out just by putting a screwdriver on it until you do something to the other side. And you can take a moto tool, believe it or not, and just kind of flatten them out just a little bit and kind of get that flare out or get that peen out, and then you can go ahead. You don't want to grind them all the way down till you hit the metal. You want to just kind of flatten them out a little bit with a moto tool with a grinding stone, just kind of not a sanding drum, but a grinding stone, a small grinding stone, and just grind it off there to where you can you grind it a little bit, then you put the screwdriver on and try to get it out, grind it a little bit, try to get it out until she finally comes loose. Well, let's flip it back over and see if any of these other screws are loose. Alright, now we know that this one is loose, so what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to tighten that baby back up. And of course, I can tighten it with a screwdriver all day long, but that doesn't mean that it won't fall out, at a later date and go down into the engine, which we don't want. Let's try some of the others and see if they're tight. Look at there, see how loose that thing is? Look at that. That should not be like that. It's almost impossible to get these things loose until you cut off the other side, grind it down a little bit. Let's try one more. Let's try it over here. My hands are shaking right now because I've been out in the yard weed eating for over an hour. That weed eater really tears up my hands. No, that one's not too loose. Let's try this one. Nope, that one's not too loose. These two here don't. Well, this one here doesn't look like it's ever been touched. Let's find out here. Yes, it has. Look at that. See, some of them come right out of there, no problem at all. See, that's no good. So what we're going to do? Here's what we're going to do. I have the option of putting this Loctite. This is Permatex thread lock. There's different kinds and everything. I can take the screws out, put the thread lock on them, and put them in. But I'm not going to use this stuff. I don't trust it. This could ruin my engine. This stuff is not good enough for me. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some JB Weld. We're going to mix up some JB Weld. We're going to put it on the threads of each one of these, and we're going to screw them down in there so they never come out. It's my carburetor. I'll probably never take it apart, and if it ever does come apart, someone else will have to deal with it. I don't want the engine ruined. JB Weld, the original type, will take care of it. I managed to put some really good downward pressure on the screwdriver with both hands, and they're all loose now. All 8 of them are loose, and we'll go ahead and put a little bit of, we're not going to slop a bunch of that, JB Weld on there. We're just going to put enough on the threads that once it goes down in there, it'll lock. Plus, when I'm done, I'll probably put a little dab, across each of the heads to hold them in place. That'll kind of be double insurance, you know what I mean?
Did it, Papa. Tell Grandma I'm okay. Tell Grandma I'm okay.
It is time to leak test our little floats, and I was going to just sink them down in water, let them set for a day, but I read around online and I found out that the alcohol density is a lot less than actual water. At least that's the way I interpreted it. So I'm going to just take some of this isopropyl alcohol, and I'm just going to fill it up with that. And if it's going to get in those floats, it'll get in those floats. And I'll have to put something on them to weight them down all the way to the bottom. But we'll wait for about 24 hours and see if any of that winds up inside the floats. If it does, they're shot. I think I'll just take the one of the empty doggy food dishes, screw the lid on, and that should hold it. And that should push it down far enough to where it stays underneath the alcohol. We'll come back and take a look at it in about 24 hours or so. Alright. I could probably probably pour that alcohol back in the jar. That's how cheap I'm getting. Alright, let's see if we got any alcohol in here. None in that one. And none in that one. Hey, we got a couple of good floats. How about that? Alright, it's the next day and I'm ready to glue some screws into this carburetor. I wanted to show you first though, remember I told you about the flared ends. See how it's hollow right there? They like put it in a machine and then they press it, there's something down in it, and it spreads apart the end of the screw so it can't come back out. They don't want that thing going down in the engine, and neither do I. So let me get a little bit of, I whipped up a little bit of a regular JB weld, like I said, not the quick weld, and or JB quick, not the quick stuff. This is the original. It's going to take all night to harden up real good. And I'm not going to slop it on. We're going to put it in the threads, and we're going to put it in the holes. I'm going to do every single one of them. And then after I get all that done, and I get them screwed down where I want them tight, we'll probably go ahead and take our A-frame, our upper A-frame, or upper control arm out of the vinegar and see how well it's doing. It's been sitting in there for about, I don't know, a few days anyway. That's about all the glue I'm going to put on. I'll smooth it down a little bit more. You don't need it, you know, gobbed in there so it squeezes out all around the head. I didn't even put it all the way up the shaft. Right about there will be good. And then we'll put the dab on each one. I'll have to reuse this round head screw in here. I wanted to take one out of the base of the 2-barrel carburetor. These are rusted in terrible. There's no way. I can't even get these out. You know, they were designed not to come out, and you wind up boogering up the threads. Just leave them. You know, I don't want to damage something over there trying to get a screw out. That base may come in handy someday for someone else. May need a base. I don't know. I can glue this one in. It fits good. It's just not recessed. That's all. So let's get some JB weld on it and get it done. We're almost through here. Alright, all the screws have been cemented in now. I want to put a little dab of glue across here or here, depending on where the most surface for the screw head is. Put a little dab of JB weld down in there to kind of hold it in. But it's right now it's smooth surface. So I'm going to have to take my motor tool, rough it up a little bit, give it a good surface to hang on to. I don't want the glue, you know, just falling off the thing down into the engine. It probably wouldn't hurt it because I'm not putting that much on, but you know, the whole idea is to do it right, so we're going to give it our best shot. So let me fire up the moto tool to show you what I'm talking about. We're going to put this on very low speed and just basically, you know, caress those things. You'll see. I switched to a smaller wheel, these little thin brown jobbies. I don't really like using them. I have them and I use them from time to time. They're so brittle. They break so easily. I don't like to use them that much, but they did the job. Time to get gluing, I guess. Alright, all I'm doing is just putting enough to cover the spot that I shined up with that little grinding wheel. It takes quite a while. The reason I'm using this particular kind of JB weld is because it doesn't harden up right away. If I'd have been using the JB quick, I would have had to mix up batch after batch because it dries in like 4 minutes or something like that. So let me see, let's do this one over here. I'll smooth this out in a little bit. I want to be able to just get it all on first. Well, that's it. We're all done on that. Now I could have used, you know, like I said, this is Permatex thread lock. I could have used Loctite. Would have probably done the same job. But I just didn't want to take the chance, you know. Some people would have said, well, it works fine. You could have used it. Yeah, well, those people are not the ones that are going to buy me a new motor if this thing were to fall out and ruin it. I'll tell you what, now let's check our upper control arm. Alright, let's see what we've got here. Ooh, isn't that a nice gooey mess? The top's not too bad. Look at that. I don't want to drop my camera in this. I'll never get it back. Ooh, that's looking real good already. Look at that. A lot of that rust is gone. A lot of that's just, it just rubs right off with my thumb, see it? Let me go ahead and take a wire brush to it and see what it looks like when we get done with that. By the way, one of our subscribers in the last video, I think it was, or the one before that, wanted to know, how do I get rid of this stuff? Well, I just throw it out in the yard. You know, it's apple juice. It's you know, look, guys, if it's edible by a human being, it's biodegradable. Okay, so you just throw this out. It's environmentally friendly. It's non-toxic, and you know, it just absorbs into the soil, and that's the end of it. Now, it will stain your grass brown for quite a while, and probably kill it for a while, but you know, the grass doesn't like rust and vinegar. So find a place over in the back of the yard somewhere, or take it out and, you know, a little bit. But you know, you can just chunk it on out there. Won't hurt a thing. Well, that's it. It looks really good on both sides. 99.999% of the rust is off. I'll tell you what, you know, all I had to do was stick it down in there and let the vinegar do the work. I didn't have to do anything but just wipe off the rust, really. Just clean it off with a little toothbrush-sized wire brush. I just gently brushed it away. Anyway, I think what we'll do, since I'm not under any time constraints right now, I'm going to go ahead and stick it back in the vinegar for a couple more days, just to get any last-minute stuff that I might have missed, and then we'll wash it off and give it a spray paint. Alright, back to the carburetor. Now, what we have here is the primary venturi and the secondary venturi. And the primary you can always tell because it's connected to this is the gas inlet right here. And this is your accelerator pump. So, let's take out, now this one we took apart last time. And I put an orange gasket up in there because it looked like it fit. But there's nothing, you know, when you look at the drawing. I went back, I always double, triple check in the drawing. I went back to the drawing. And you'll see that there is no gasket underneath that screw right there. However, under the screw on the other one, you'll see a gasket. This is the other one right here. This is the primary set. This is the secondary. Screw holds it in. This is your other screw. Goes through a gasket, to a rod, to a ball bearing, and then down into the hole. And this, of course, both of these Venturi have a long gasket under each one. So there's a reason why there's no gasket here, but there is a gasket here. The reason there's no gasket here is because there's never any gas underneath this Venturi setup. There's no gas down there. It's just a nothing, really. No gas. Now we do need this gasket, of course, to, you know, you don't want metal to metal. And these are your metering rods, like I said. So we can go ahead and just put that down there like that and take this screw. I've already taken off the orange. Get a little more focus here. Push it forward a little bit. There we go. I've already taken off the orange gasket, and we're going to leave that off. You can put one underneath if you want. It doesn't really matter. There's none in the kit for it. And if I can get the screw to ever get it started down there, there we go. What I'm going to do is just crank it down in there. All that screw does is hold it in place. There's no gas that'll come up and get through the around the threads or around the head of the screw. Now on this other one, a little bit different story. There is gas on this one. Okay, gas does come up through this, so this definitely needs a gasket. Now this screw is hollow on the inside because gasoline comes up through it and it comes out these holes on the side at the head, underneath the head. Okay. Go a little bit closer. And there's a rod down here that holds the ball bearing in, so we're going to tip this carburetor over. The rod will fall out and the ball bearing will fall out. Don't lose either. Well, there it is. That's the way the rod fits up inside the center hollow spot of the screw, and this ball bearing is right here, and that rod presses against that ball bearing. Okay. Keeps it down in the center hole down in here. That's pretty dirty down there. These holes on each side are pretty dirty. I'm going to have to really do a good scrubbing and cleaning, and that'll take a while. So I think what we'll do is this here probably could use another good scrubbing and cleaning also. I'm really gonna go through this baby. Let me see, was there anything else I wanted to cover before I did that? Oh yeah, I'll tell you what, why don't we just go ahead and change out the needle valve seats. Now I'm only going to change out one on camera. I'll do the other one afterwards. This package right here contains a couple of springs. See those two springs? I took them off the original floats that were in the carburetor. They don't give you new springs in the kit. they do give you retaining clips. That's what these babies are right here. And a clip right there. And they give you a new needle valve right there, and then they give you the seat. And I don't know if I can't remember if they call that a needle valve or not. I always called it a needle valve. When I was a kid, these things were all metal. The little needle was all metal, and then years later they came out with what it's see that brown, that dark colored tip. We used to call it a neoprene tip. So I don't know what it's made out of now, but it used to be neoprene. And so let's go ahead and unscrew it. All we're going to do is basically unscrew one and screw the other one in with this gasket between the body of the carburetor and the seat. Now, a lot of folks that rebuild carburetors, you know, they leave these in if they look to be in good shape, and these are in very good shape actually. And I've left them in myself and just put a new needle valve in here, and you know they worked fine afterwards. Never had any problem. But you know what the heck? I mean, I paid for the kit. The new ones are in the kit. Let's use them. I don't want to waste them. I keep a couple around all the time. You never know. I've never seen one of these ever worn out. Back when the needle valves were metal, they would wear out the inside probably from going up and down over a period of time. But you know the ones with the neoprene tips are soft, and they're not going. They just never did much damage to the brass seats. So we're going to go ahead and clean out this one, and then we'll take the new seat goes in on this particular kit, goes in with a screwdriver. It's got a slot, see it at the top. Doesn't have the 3/8 inch. This is a 3/8 inch seat top hex. Anyway, I think what we'll do is go ahead and knock off the video here. I'm just going to go ahead and clean these two out real good. I'm going to clean out this right here. And before I do any of that though, I'm going to take my screw and my rod and my ball bearing, and I'm going to put it in this bag with the springs. You don't want to be losing this stuff. This is very, very important. It's almost like losing small bits and pieces on a radio that we repair. Well, that's about it for now. I wanted to replace one of these seats, but I can't. The entire thing is rusted. Now, it's got a lot of corrosion in it, in both of the holes where the seats were. But I did take a couple of screws out of the other carburetor, this 2-barrel over here. And I'm going to have to derust those. All the screws will get brand new lock washers on them. And I guess the last thing to tell you is that our oldest grandson, James, who's in the Air Force, he's Staff Sergeant in the Air Force, got promoted not long ago. He's stationed in Turkey. He'll be coming home next month. And he has been stationed at Little Rock Air Force Base, which is right just a few miles from where we live. It's going to be wonderful. He said he'd be spending a lot of time over here. I said, no problem. So we're going to have our oldest grandson in the Air Force who will be coming to visit us with his family quite often. And we'll also have our youngest grandson, John, who's going to go to college here at the University of Central Arkansas. Man, this is going to be great. We're going to do a lot of cooking out back. You can bet on that. A lot of movie going. And James likes to work on cars, so he'll want to help me with the Thunderbird, which is really cool. But, you know, his attention span is about 10 seconds. He's Air Force. You know how that goes. And I guess that's about it. Oh, yeah, I think what I'll do in the next video, we'll have a post fight interview with John from the kickboxing match. Win, lose, or draw. We'll get his take on how the whole thing went. So, sorry to cut you short on this, but we have a lot of unexpected cleaning to do, and I have some other things that need to be done. So until next time, I hope I didn't disappoint you too badly this time. This is John. Well, two more things as usual. The first one is this coil spring that I took out of the car. You know, I wanted to go ahead and replace these things initially as just, you know, let's get rid of them because they're obviously going to be shorter. They're going to be weaker. They've, you know, metal fatigue setting in. But when I measured them the other day against the height that they're supposed to be, I found them to be right on. Now, I'll tell you what, that was a surprise to me. I did not expect these springs to be the exact height they're supposed to be once they're out of the car after having been in there all those years. So, you know, it's been gnawing at me ever since that time. You know, I could buy a new set. I should buy a new set of springs, buy a new set. But on the other hand, I was saying, wait a minute, you know, there may not be anything wrong with these things, you know. Otherwise, if they had been a little lower, I'd have said, yeah, we got to get rid of them. But they're, you know, they're spot on. So Brendan and I talked about this extensively, you know, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and we have come to the mutual conclusion. Primarily his decision, but you know, I don't rely 100% on his decision all the time. I have my own mind, you know, but I think mutually we have decided that I told him to go back and look at the videos, the previous videos, like video number 2 and 3 and all that, anywhere where it shows the car sitting level with the spring in the front. And I never did measure from the ground to the top of the inner fender. I should have done so, but I never did do that, and it's too late now, so I have to rely on photographs or videos from old videos as to how well the car is sitting. And I went back and looked at them really close. I mean, I really scrutinized them, and it looked to me like the height was good, and the ride height, you know, it looked really good. And I said, Brandon, go back and you look at them, you tell me what you think. And he came back and he said, John, they look fine. I don't see any problem. He said, I looked at every video I could find that, you know, that you had filmed that had the ride height sitting. He said, it looks great to me. He said, even if it was off maybe this far, you'd never notice the difference anyway. Well, you know, based on that and based on what I was thinking and based on the height and based on the, you know, what we did by looking at how the car was sitting, I've decided to just go ahead and put these old springs. We're going to clean them up, we're going to paint them, we're going to put them back in the car. Win, lose, or draw. That is the command decision on the coil springs. I don't have a problem buying new ones. I mean, I've got the money to do it. But, you know, why bother? I can use that money for something else. I need a vice. Every man needs a vice or two, right? So that's the command decision on that. And also, I painted the spindle up. It looks real good now. It's ready to be put over there by the car. And so I guess I actually have 3 things. The fight has taken place, and I have put together a segment about the fight, and I put it earlier in the video, so you're probably wondering, why is it in the middle of the video? Well, all of this has been filmed, keep in mind, before the fight. And I didn't want you to have to wait till all the way to the end of the video to find out how the fight went. So it'll be in the middle. I hope you enjoy it. You'll now see the results, and that's it for now, for sure. So on a second note, until next time, this is John.